Has creativity been squeezed out of the curriculum? I think the answer has to be yes.
Businesses now say, we don't need people who can fill in forms, we need people who can think of an alternative to a form on the web. And they're going to need ICT skills, but they've got to think creatively.
We just now, I think, need to inject that bit of creativity which will bring learning to life and I think make a difference to teachers' lives, to their professional rewards.
Creative learning is one of the government's latest initiatives to improve educational standards. But what does it really mean? And can it actually change your working life in the way that they promise? It's Maths Week at Broadfields Junior School, and creativity is already making its mark here. It's time to escape the classroom and head for the local supermarket.
How many pizzas for £1? 9.
To some of you, this freedom may bring back memories of how things used to be.
Things were very different when I started teaching in 1988. I remember cycling to school thinking, what shall I do today? Oh, it's snowing, we'll do some poetry on the snow. And I enjoyed teaching then. There was a tremendous amount of freedom. In 1989, the national curriculum came in, and things over the coming years tightened up considerably to the point of becoming rigid. And I think a number of teachers were quite disillusioned about the curriculum at that time and left the profession. Things have started to loosen up again over the last 2 or 3 years as once again government has trusted teachers that they are the best people to make decisions in terms of how children are educated, and people like me are enjoying teaching much more now as creativity is back at the heart of the curriculum.
Another good example of this re-emergence of creative learning is taking place at Gloucester Primary School in South London.
Something else. That's not full stop. Do you think that these characters are happy? No. My name is Teresa Vierengo. I work on a project called Creative Grammar. Wordland is a magic world where the part of speech live. The children enjoy the characters, and especially they enjoy the castles. And because the words become people, they are interested and they want to know about them. By doing this, they know about grammar. They are asking grammar questions, but at their level.
The emphasis now being given to creativity is, I think, not new. Creativity has always been there, but it's been much more in the background in the last few years because of the pressures of the national curriculum and the 2 literacy and numeracy strategies. But the plateau we've reached in terms of standards in the basic subjects is probably not going to change until we motivate and excite children as learners. They see it as the key, if you like, to even higher standards in the future.
If creativity can help send well-educated, confident young people into the world, then it must be doing something right, as Tim Smith, founder of the Eden Project, explains to an audience of primary head teachers.
If I could just, like the magic boomerang, influence all teachers to do just one thing, it would be for them all to have the courage to look everybody in the eye and say, what do you guys want out of education? You are not there to create widget manufacturers. You are here to create people that have citizenship values, but they also have the ability to enjoy the world and make their own way in it.
It's important to look ahead to the new world of creative widget-making workers. But the real issue is, what does all this mean today in your classroom? Let's go back to Gloucester Primary School, where the pupils are being inspired by what they call Wordland.
Zoomed. Something zoomed. What does that mean?
Something go fast.
Fast. Excellent. Zoomed. Zoomed away.
When we introduced children to the Wordland, I felt that they started asking themselves questions. So where are they going? What are they doing? How are they feeling? Why are they doing this? And I feel it does prompt them to think creatively and come up with amazing answers.
Can you touch the ray?
But of course, embracing creative learning does have its dangers. You may be tempted to fall back into your old, undisciplined ways.
In our drive to be enthusiastic about creativity for learning now, it's very important that we learn from the mistakes of the past, that we don't, for example, fall into the trap of the woolly, vague planning that we fell into in the 1980s, where there was no rigour, there was no national curriculum, of course. A lot of the planning was vague and unhelpful, and led to children learning very, very little.
So what we're looking at here is something that can be called new creativity. Creative learning that can be used across the curriculum that is solid and well structured.
I think there is a myth that creativity is about self-expression and sometimes self-indulgence. A sense that it can be woolly. Within most arts processes, there is a process by which you need to identify problems, to research and find out how different materials maybe work together. You're researching and investigating and exploring.
And to help you properly deliver your creative learning, there is of course the QCA.
My name's Margaret Talboys and I'm a programme leader in the 3 to 14 education division here at QCA. QCA's project with about 120 schools found that there were 5 key things that we need to look for if we're going to help children become creative thinkers. Firstly, the ability to see possibilities, to use your imagination. And secondly, making connections between what you know already and what you're learning. Third, the ability to ask questions, not just answer them. And fourth, exploring ideas, experimenting, being playful. And lastly, thinking and reflecting critically on what you're doing, trying to make it better, improve it.
There's no doubt that these simple guidelines can help you focus on how children learn creatively. But part of the same story is how you, as a teacher, can become more creative.
There is a debate around whether we are teaching creatively or whether we are teaching for creativity. And there is a difference. We're talking about children's learning on one hand and the way teachers teach on the other. For us, those two are inextricably linked. You can't have one without the other.
I think people need a framework for being able to think through those changes, because nobody, and I certainly haven't been able to, is to, with one giant leap, change your practice. You have to change different bits of your practice.
You as a teacher have to think that you're asking the question, and therefore having asked the question, what are you eliciting? Instead of just presenting them with something to do. It's more we have to be more creative in our thinking, I guess.
And if you need further help with what creativity means to you as a teacher, the QCA is on hand to clarify what you should be looking for.
We've tried to be really clear about a definition of creativity. What does it mean? There are 4 features of creative thinking and behaviour. Firstly, it's about imaginative activity. Imagination is key. Secondly, that activity has to go somewhere. It has to have a purpose. And third, it produces something which is original. And fourth, that activity produces something which is worthwhile, which has a value to it. In the project, we worked with these teachers and encouraged them to build in the creativity, not bolt it on.
We're coming to the end of Maths Week at Broadfields Junior School, and the children are recognising that playing games is now a part of the curriculum.
Excellent. Speaking to each other, I think that's the clearest point.
The children were given the end goal of winning a prize in their table groups to design a board game. That then created a dynamic where they had to try and work together and find out that teamwork is not a parallel process, but one where they, as one of the children said, bounce about between each team.
I think creativity is important because it excites the learner. It's also much more interesting for the teacher because the curriculum is more diverse. And I think the end results are proven and have been proven in schools that have been risky enough to go the creativity route, and as such that children, because they're more confident learners, achieve much better results in core subjects such as English and maths.
Exciting creative learning and clear management processes do go hand in hand, as the staff at Thornhill Primary in North London recognise.
My view of both creativity for both teachers and children is that the outcomes may remain the same, where the outcome isn't creativity, but how you get there are many routes. And there are only, maybe not major ways you can do it in school, because schools are still limited in what they can do. But I now feel that, yes, I want children to leave the school with a sense of their potential, creative potential.
Part of it is about creating places where we are not always under the spotlight of criticism, where people can actually behave as their consciences dictate. And we're not very good in our culture at the moment of having places where you're allowed to make mistakes, but with the assumption that you're going in a positive direction.
There's now a real freedom to experiment in your classroom. But how realistic is this ambition?
Children, and teachers for that matter, can't be creative every minute of every day. There are going to be times when you have to teach something in a fairly straightforward way and the children have to do some work in a similar way too. You can't be exciting and creative all the time. But when there are opportunities for being creative, there is a marked difference in the way that children respond. For example, it almost always involves them in thinking about their own learning and asking the kind of questions which can lead them into areas of learning that wouldn't have happened if they had not been involved. When a teacher is planning a unit of work in which she wants to develop creativity for learning, I'd suggest that she takes very careful account of the characteristics for creativity which the QCA has listed in its publication. It's important to plan the opportunity for children to ask questions, and for those questions to lead sometimes to avenues of inquiry which the children will undertake independently, that they can follow their own lines of inquiry, first through their own questions that they've asked, and secondly through those connections which are so important in creative learning, that you connect from one piece of learning to another and you can apply what you've learnt from one thing to another.
To get the full benefit, it has to be something that we're all trying to think about. But you have to and I think there will be some divergence. People will try different things, and then you will have to kind of come together and think it through a bit more. So there's that kind of, reiterative thinking through of what you're after.
And I think one of the things we're doing as a school, which I think is really important, is asking these questions and moving away from learning objectives to learning questions. Because, when we're planning now, you as a teacher have to think that you're asking the question, and therefore, having asked the question, what are you eliciting?
One of the things that we found is that teachers can promote creativity in their classrooms as individuals, but it's much more powerful if they work together in teams across a key stage or within a subject, and work together to discuss how best their subject or their teaching and learning can promote creativity, and share that expertise.
Looking ahead to the next 10 years or so in primary education, I think we have a golden opportunity to realise some of the ambitions that many of us had in the past but did not have either the opportunity or the framework, the support that we have now. We've got the structure of the national curriculum, we've got the higher standards in English, maths and science. Now we need to achieve the creativity, the excitement in the primary curriculum, which I think we all yearn for, and at the same time I think we can take standards even higher than they are now.